Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for allowing me to present to you. My name is Theodore Price-Waldman, and I'm going to be telling you about one of the most prevalent social issues that affects modern society, the homeless crisis. You, as the New Mexico State Legislature, have commissioned me to do research on this, and I have. And now I have a proposed solution that may help the homeless crisis. There are large amounts of homeless people all across the United States, but here in New Mexico, we have one of the largest homeless populations in the nation. At this time, there are 3,000 homeless citizens living in New Mexico. As of right now, homelessness in New Mexico is a very multifaceted issue that is caused by several different factors. Some of these factors are a lack of affordable housing, domestic violence and lack of safety in housing, and health and mental problems. Given that homelessness is caused by many different things, it would be very inefficient and not cost-effective to try to tackle every single cause of homelessness. Therefore, I have decided to focus on just one or two causes in an effort to improve the homeless situation. My proposed solutions are basically improving the amount of housing and places for homeless people to stay in New Mexico. My two main points are to increase the funding for small housing projects such as tent cities, and number two, to increase the amount of low-income housing in New Mexico. As you may have noticed, the first step in my proposed solution is to fund tent cities. Tent cities are basically gatherings of homeless citizens in a sort of village, very much like the Hoovervilles of the 1930s and the Great Depression. There have been several tent cities throughout Albuquerque, but they have never found a permanent place to settle down. My proposal would give them a permanent place. Tent cities that exist nowadays are run by the inhabitants. This leads to generally unsafe conditions and very unorganized tent cities. I propose that the government steps in to manage and to fund tent cities, providing the inhabitants with food, shelter, and other amenities that they may need. You can look down in the corner to see the image that I have provided of a government-run tent city that helped out disaster relief in Africa. This is just an example, but this kind of thing has worked throughout the world, and I think it could work very well in New Mexico. The second step in my proposed solution is to create more affordable housing in New Mexico. New Mexico and Albuquerque have been very notorious in not having a lot of low-income and affordable housing for its inhabitants. As you can see on the graph on the right, Albuquerque, New Mexico does not provide a high enough minimum wage for people to afford their so-called low-income housing. Even though the minimum wage was recently raised to $8.60, it is still not enough for people to be able to afford a single-bedroom apartment. My proposed solution is to build very low-income housing, such as several apartment buildings that could house those who have a low income. Not just those who have no income, but those who work a job and have a little amount of money, but usually would not be able to afford housing. I know this sounds expensive, but it actually is not. $86,000 for one apartment building would have 12 units in it, which could potentially house up to 48 people. I propose that we build two of these buildings for a cost of $172,000, and it could house up to 98 people. Then, if we build 5 tent cities at a cost of $8,000 each, it would run $40,000 for the initial cost. After that, assuming there's 100 people living in each tent city, it would be $75 each for food and $50 for other services. So in all, this is $12,500 per week per tent city, assuming that 100 people are living in each tent city. If my proposed solutions are taken into effect, the benefits would be extraordinary. For the homeless who currently have an extremely low income, we would build 2 apartment buildings that could house up to 100 of them. For the homeless people with no income at all, we could build 5 tent cities that could house up to 500 people. Both together, this could lower New Mexico's homeless rate by almost 30% for only $206,000. I hope that you realize the low cost and high benefit of my proposed solutions. We all know that the homeless crisis has something that has been needed solving for a long time now. My proposed solution will help us on our way to solving the homeless crisis by lowering New Mexico's homeless population by almost 30%. I hope I have convinced you to invest in my proposed solutions. Thank you, and good night.